You were listening to episode 276 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name is John, and this week I'm joined by Will of the PlayStation Ain't Dead Podcast.
And here on the Game Deflators Podcast, we like to talk about games we've recently picked up, games we're currently playing, and this week we're having a foam party, but not a very good one.
That's right, we're playing some Foamstars on the PlayStation 5 for me. I assume PlayStation 5 for you, Will?
Oh, yes.
Okay, sounds good. Well, Will is joining us. Ryan is unavailable this week, but we are playing Foamstars. As Ryan and I talked about a couple weeks ago, I've said, let's get this knocked out before the official release. And we'll talk about in our inflation deflation segment. But first, you can find the Game Deflators on thegamedeflators.com, our currently up-to-date website. You can also find us on YouTube. So search up Game Deflators, at Game Deflators Podcast, whatever you want to find on there. We're also on social media at Game Deflators on X. I always forget X and Twitter for whatever reason. At The Game Deflators on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. And you're listening to a podcast application right now. Like, subscribe, leave us a comment, leave us a 5-star review, 2 5-star reviews if you can, and we would greatly appreciate it. So before we dive into our recent pickups and what we're currently playing, this week we're going to talk about Nintendo trying to put more people in jail. Insomniac is pissed at Sony, and the PSVR is just the Vita Part 2.
That's a shame.
All right. So I'll dole it over to you first, Will, if you want to cover, really, at first, let's actually say who you are. So PlayStation Ain't Dead Podcast, maybe a little bit about that, and then we'll dive into what we recently picked up and what we're currently playing.
Yeah, running the PlayStation Ain't Dead Podcast. Started off over there on Facebook with the PS2 Ain't Dead group, PS3 Ain't Dead group, and then so on and so forth. And podcast. Just lots of, I don't know, I wouldn't know how to describe it. A comedy show, I guess. It's a lot of screwing around, and it's loosely, well, no, it's mainly about video games, but more geared towards collectors than just the casual player. So if you dig collecting, PS3, any console, actually, we love all games over there. Come on and check us out. You can find us on YouTube and anywhere where you listen to your podcast as well. So we're all over.
Just no Xbox.
No, we excuse me. We usually talk crap on Xbox, but
okay. So yeah, I'm sorry. Xbox is talked about just in other ways.
They have a place in this gaming world, I guess. And
third, right? Third place.
Last place. I prefer. Yeah. We talk about them all the time. I need. There's actually one Xbox game out there I'm looking for. Looking for those Tenchu games. One on the OG Xbox and then the 360. Because I recently picked up a Tenchu on Wii. Believe it or not.
Oh, nice. I actually have that one too. Tenchu Z on the Xbox 360, right?
Yeah, it's Tenchu Z, and then it's like Into the Darkness or something. There's two of them.
Isn't Into the Darkness just like a reiteration of one of the other Tenchus?
I don't know.
I don't remember. I think I have both actually. I actually have quite a few Xbox games. But I specifically, when I looked at Xbox, it was to pick up any exclusives, console exclusives. It was the only thing I collect on Xbox.
You talking OG or 360?
Both, OG and 360. Anything tied to those. Obviously, once you hit Xbox One, everything was on PC and such anyways. Yeah. So I like it just like straight console exclusives.
No, I gotta go into my son's room to play the Wii and the Xbox 360 because my battle station is just PlayStation because I'm a pony boy, a Sony pony, as they say.
Yeah. Well, so did you have any pickups this week?
Oh yes, I did.
All right, let's list them off.
I got Gravity Rush remastered. I got a sealed copy in the mail. That's not getting open. Unfortunately, the disc is loose, so I'm gonna have to refer to YouTube on how to get that thing back in there. I picked up. I've
done this a few times. You kind of just wiggle the case around so it feels about right, and you punch down in the center on where it would be, and then it should shift into place.
I've tried it dozens and dozens of times. I've successfully done it maybe twice. I don't know what the
there's an art to it.
Yeah,
it just takes a bit. Once you do it a few times, though, you kind of knock it in.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna try and I'm gonna attempt that. I just got a whole pile of games. Every time the game comes in the mail, it's sealed. It's usually loose. It is what it
Amazon.
is. Yeah, well, Amazon, especially Amazon.
I don't get what it is with that, man. It's like every single game I've ever purchased on them or purchased from them ends up loose in the case. Doesn't matter what it is.
Same with limited run games. Every time something comes in from them, it's always loose as well. But
it's got to be something in, I don't know, maybe it's like current games and manufacturing, I don't get it from retailers. So
no, they just need to just twist that knob just to make whatever machine, whatever process, press it down just a little more.
Yeah.
That's it. It should be good. But no, it's that's been plaguing the video game industry. Well, PS4 anyway.
Yeah.
I picked up Dark Souls Trilogy PS4. I had to get the PEGI version because I'm not shelling out $150 for the for the ESRB version.
Yeah.
Picked up Dusk Diver 1, and I got a new new PS5 DualSense controller. Unfortunately, mine within a week of each other, my original controller and the later one I bought both got drift, so I had to go out and get a new one.
Oh, you're not going to crack it open and try and
no,
fix the drift?
I got the guy I do the podcast with. I'm going to send it to him. He says he knows how to do it. So, dude, if I open that thing up, it's never getting put back together. It's just
gotcha.
Yeah, I don't have a steady hand.
Gotcha. I was just having this discussion with a buddy of mine last night because his 360 or no, his Xbox controllers. I think he's using a one. They also had drift. I'm like, just crack it open. He's like, nope, I don't have a steady hand. Okay.
What do you do? Just open it up and clean out the portion?
It depends on the controller. Like the Nintendo Switch, it's drift issues. I've just swapped out the joysticks on those, like the interior component. It's literally like a few screws. You pop out the little component thing that plugs in to kind of get the signal to go. And then you swap it out. PlayStation 5, I haven't tried yet, but I imagine it's very similar. But there could be some soldering involved. I'm not 100% sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any drift on my controls. I don't play many first-person shooters or anything that would require pressing down that thumbstick too often. So,
well, the thing is, it's the right stick that's screwing up. The left stick's the one you click in to run with, and that's what I don't get. It is what it. I was gonna get a DualSense Edge, the Pro controller with the sticks you can swap in and out, or I was gonna get just a regular old DualSense in a semi-expensive game, which is the route I went, and I got Gravity Rush and the new controller. So here we are.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, anything that you're currently playing?
PUBG as usual, still playing it. At this point, that playing that game is just an excuse to bullshit with friends. You know what I mean? I'm not in there trying to light the world on fire. I picked up, and I've been playing Rival Schools 1 and Rival Schools 2. I picked up the Japanese versions. Silly me, I thought that being fighting games, not having to know Japanese was not going to be a problem. But it's a really text heavy game, especially the story mode.
Well, in Rival Schools 2, right? Because I don't think that did that have an English release? It did, didn't it?
Not Rival Schools 2. Well,
I thought it did on the Dreamcast.
If it did, it's out of my wheelhouse. But I picked it up on PS1, and it's got some story mode, and I just kept having to take my phone and Google Translate up to the freaking screen. It was a whole ordeal. So,
is your Rival Schools 1 an English copy?
No.
Oh, you didn't get that one English. That one's kind of pricey nowadays.
Yeah, Japan collecting or Japanese PS1 collecting is like my new frontier.
Gotcha.
I've done 2 to death, did 3 to death. I'm in the middle of 4, and I'm fast running out of games for 4. So I'm heading over to Japan, see what they got.
Gotcha. Makes sense. I mean, did you get all the PEGI releases and such as well on those consoles?
No. No.
Because at least you still get English.
Yeah, but I don't know. Something about them European games. It's just something so European about it.
It's that like green PEGI 13 or PEGI 4 or whatever the hell they got on there.
The PS4 I'll go to PEGI, but if I can't, it's few and far between. The PS3 I'll get a PEGI if it's or a PAL exclusive, if you know what I mean.
That's same here. I usually try to go ESRB if I can for PS4 releases or anything really released after PS3. But if it is exclusive, I will try to pick it up from the other language if possible.
Japan's the new stuff.
Yep.
I'm trying to curb my my sailor mouth, so bear with me. My stutter.
All right. Well, let me dive into what I got here. So I just picked up Magic cards this week. That's kind of been my thing, as you've probably been listening in recent weeks. Didn't have any games, so we are looking at some games. Actually, no, I did have a game. I had Moss 2. I actually picked up a digital game. So my wife and I have a game that we play on a regular basis. We have like our game that we play, and we played Moss on PSVR long time ago. Beat that, enjoyed it, and then I remembered Moss 2 is out, so did she, and it was like $12 on the PlayStation Store. So we just picked it up. There's no physical release for the game, so it was one of those situations of she really wanted to play it. Normally I don't buy digital, but here we are.
Is that the one with the mouse on the cover?
Yeah, it
okay.
is. Yeah, it's pretty good, dude. I enjoyed it. So I've actually got a pretty wide assortment of PlayStation VR games that I started collecting a while back. Kind of rightfully so. I mean, they're decent games on there. And I see that as a situation similar like the Wii U or the Vita, where it didn't have a ton of crazy buy-ins from people. And so you got all these games that have been released on the console. So at some point, I could see there being value there, but at the same time, it's just a lot of games that I would like to play that didn't have like wide releases outside of VR.
No, I can't handle VR. It makes me sick.
You honestly get used to it for the most part. But I do take like a Dramamine or something occasionally nowadays when I'm sick, not necessarily for PSVR, but just in general for motion sickness. So I think when I do get back into that, it might be like let's take a Dramamine just before some VR and see how we feel. Because there are some games where I've felt pretty nauseous, but games like Beat Saber, for example, I have no issue with. Like if we play Beat Saber, all good. Moss, I didn't have any crazy issues with, but when I played like Doom on the PSVR, I wanted to throw up, dude. It was so bad.
No, I learned the hard way. I went to a mall. And I don't know what it was. They had some VR kiosk in the middle of the thing. I strapped it on, and then not even a minute in, I'm sweating profusely, and I just felt off.
Yeah, like, they say with VR you want to do like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, build yourself up, and then eventually kind of get to a point where you're like, all right, cool, I can play this for an hour, 2 hours with no issue. But yeah, it can be kind of heavy on the body.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I'll never be a fighter pilot, unfortunately.
But yeah, I did also pick up Magic cards. So I'm trying to build budget decks for Magic. So I found that when I play in tournaments locally, there's guys bringing like $400 or $500 decks to Magic tournaments, and I'm busting in there with like $30, $60 decks in taking tournaments, and it's absolutely hilarious. So that's kind of been my new thing, like the next fun budget deck that can actually take tournaments, like local tournaments. Obviously, like a big thing, it's not going to handle it. But yeah, anything I can build that's going to be like, yeah, $50 is all the requirement is. And oh, by the way, you can use like all the other cards you built from your other budget deck and kind of translate them in. That's what I do. And I win whenever I can. And I build it up to get store credit and get more cards for free, basically.
Hurting feelings out there.
Oh, dude, I got one of the guys who play with, he was so angry. He was so pissed.
One right there.
I had another guy I was playing a deck called Caves. And the entire focus of his deck is to throw down lands. And you pretty much continue recycling the same kill card in your graveyard. So you're like, I'm going to wipe the entire board of all your creatures. And the guy's like, all right, fine. So he builds up more creatures. I'm like, I'm going to pitch this card to grab my kill card, wipe the board, and your turn. And like I just kept doing that. The match went like 30 minutes for just one match. And I ended up winning. He was so angry. He was just like, when the second match is coming around, he's like, we're not going to finish this in time, so you just take it 1-0. It's like, okay, we're good. Best of 3, I win 1-0.
Where do you play at?
I don't usually like to reveal where I play, but
you don't want throngs of people showing up.
Throngs of people showing up, right? No, I played a number of shops out in like the Gilbert, Mesa, Queen Creek area. I mean, it just depends on, where I want to go at that point. I think there's a shop out in Apache Junction that I'm looking to go to at some point. So just varies.
There's this Goodwill I frequent. It's near my house, and there's I believe it's a card shop right next to it. Do you go there?
I'm trying to think. I mean, dude, there's so many. Oh, wait. Are you in Mesa?
It's on
Athoria?
University. I don't remember what it's called. It's off
Oh, no.
University.
I never go out towards, Oh, wait. No, maybe it is. Athoria Games, which is off of like Mesa or University and like west of Power.
Yes.
Yeah. I've been there a few times. It's been a while.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. That Goodwill's always shit, though.
Yeah, well, mostly they are mostly Goodwill's getting. It's not a good place for hunting anymore.
No,
they ruined it.
I saw one guy. I think it was on the PlayStation Ain't Dead page. He picked up like Brigadane or something like that for like $5, but it's like few and far between that there's any fines anymore. And I mean, there's guys that go to these Goodwills and they get in with the people there, and all the good stuff gets to them, or it gets just put online nowadays. So it's not even. I honestly haven't gone game hunting in probably 6 to 8 months now.
Oh yeah,
it's
not what it used to be.
No, at this point, it's just if you got the money to buy stuff, just buy it at this point. I don't sit there wasting my time trying to search for things. Now, if something kind of falls in my lap, sure. But there's other ways to make more money nowadays for me that don't involve me driving around constantly to get that stuff. I mean, I could honestly just use like credit card reward points and be happy, and just use it for games.
No, the thrill of just finding something out in the wild it's gone. Yeah, too many sharks in the water out here, and I hate what I become, just hunting on eBay, Mercari, randomly on Facebook.
It's kind of lost its luster for me in a way. Like if I see a garage sale, I'll pop by. But even garage sales, man, you go to them, it's I got this Wii and I've got like 10 games that are all garbage. I want $200.
We can take news articles from WADA for Super Mario whatever sells for $1 million, and then soccer bus mom reads the article and thinks her sports games are worth at least 100.
I get an email every now and then from this publication. I don't remember the name of it, but like it goes to our Game Deflators email, and they're like, here's the top 10 highest selling games on Nintendo 64. And they quote like Super Mario. And it's like, $5,000. But they don't like specify on there, but it's sealed. So it's like, you got all these things that are like, they're not specified. And they send this email out like, what's the value of your game when you picked it up? It's like, well, I can sure as hell tell you it's not $5,000 because it's a loose copy. But you don't specify that. So I'm going to assume it's $5,000 now. Okay. And then also on my, what I've been playing this week has been nothing. I did not play any video games outside of our Foamstars. Busy week where, it was like work, cooking, family time, repeat every day. So, yeah. Welcome. But I did watch Avatar though. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit because I understand you also watched it.
Yes, I just finished it last night, and after it was over, I started watching the animated series. See if I have a frame of reference.
Yeah. So when I first reached out to Will, I was like, let's see what we can do as far as like this new Netflix series and maybe talk about it. So happy you were able to finish it. I finished it yesterday at some point as well, and I liked it, dude. Having watched the show, I would say there are some discrepancies between the animation and this one, but overall, I thought it was a great show. I thought that they really captured the essence of the different characters pretty well. Everybody really fit to where they needed to be in terms of like what the anime was. Like I felt like I was watching the anime again.
Can we call it anime?
Animation, whatever you want to call it. I mean, if you think about it, if it was released in Japan and it had, original Japanese voice acting and was released in America, it would be an anime. We can call it American animation for purposes of this, but it's basically an anime.
I enjoyed it overall. I wanted to ask, how close was it to the original?
I mean, there's a lot of things that are not there. Like I'll give you an example of a key scene. It's called, I think, the Cave of Love. So if you remember the episode where Sokka and Katara are in this cave and they hold their hands and, these different things happen. That's initially a scene of her and Zuko when they're in the cave and they almost kiss in that scene. And it got fans riled up to where like, it's Zutara. It's going to be Zuko and Katara at the end of the show together. I'm not going to spoil it for you because you're watching the animation right now, but like that's a specific scene in there that was cut out. I don't remember if bloodbending, which they kind of allude to in a way. in the show when they're in the Northern Water Tribe, when they're like kind of showing the water flowing through the human body sculpture.
Yeah.
I don't remember if bloodbending is in the first season or not, so we'll have to see. I mean, it isn't, but I don't know if it's in the first season of like the animation. And let's see what I mean. There was a ton of stuff. Like they don't go into great levels of detail on every single bit of the attack on the air nomads in the animation. And I'm trying to go based off of like 12 years ago, by the way. I know that Aang learns how to waterbend after or during the first season of the animation. He does not in the live action, which is kind of disappointing. Like I was hoping that he would like bust out some waterbending in like the last episode or two to help fight, and he didn't. So that kind of sucked. But like overall, I mean, it's pretty close. I mean, there's only so much they can capture. What I do always question though, when you think about the actual like animation, it was like 20 episodes for the first season, and each of those episodes was like 22 minutes a pop, right?
Yeah.
So divide that or split it in half, essentially, right? You're looking at 44 minutes per episode, 10 episodes, right? You could legit word for word copy that animation and translate it into a live action, but they don't. I'm like, you have 10 episodes or 8 episodes, right? First one's an hour, and then you're 48 minutes a piece on the others. Couldn't just translate one to one like that? That just always confuses me of some of these things, like these adaptations. One Piece, I understand. It's a shit ton of episodes.
Oh, I tried watching that one, dude.
Oh, I enjoyed it, but I mean, I've seen the anime all the way up to most of the current stuff. But yeah, like that's difficult because you're talking thousands of episodes. You're talking the first season literally encompasses like 80, 90 episodes. So you got to condense it and put as close to the original as you can in whatever instances and put in as many Easter eggs. Avatar's literally like time frame. It's like the same amount of time. So I don't, that just doesn't like track for me. Like, why would you just not do that? But
yeah, they want to give people something new, I guess.
I guess. I mean, there's some things that I get, like the filler episodes. You can kind of get rid of that, and they allude to that multiple times. But then they put in their own filler, so it's like you could have just thrown in the animation filler, and it would have been just fine, and people would be happy. But they don't.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? I mean, they work with a Nickelodeon. I don't know. Maybe they new writers and never saw this. Who knows?
I think they were working with the creators for a while, and then the creators like jumped. So creative differences, I think, would have been the reason.
My issue with the show, I think it needed more violence. To be honest with you, it seems like they try to delicately balance the kids show with an adult edge, but it never felt quite adult enough for me. Sometimes it felt a little bit corny. Give it a dash of Game of Thrones violence, and I mean, after all, it's a show about a war,
Yeah,
and
Aang uses precision air slicing to take off heads.
Something, Well, now he's too much of a Hare Krishna hippie for that, I think. But is this spoiler free? Is this a spoiler free discussion we're having about it? Or
you can spoil away. I mean, I think people understand it. I mean, I've already kind of spoiled a few things, right? So,
the moon spirit fish kaiju business, that last episode was great.
Yeah,
I was like bored, going through it. There's a lot of filler, like there's some filler, like you said, but that storyline, I was like, oh yeah, let's go. That one got me going. But like I said, a little more adult edge on it would have made it better.
Well, it'll build up more. I mean, now that Azula, who you saw at the end, is kind of a little more integrated, I wouldn't say it's gonna be like premiere violence, but there's gonna be more fighting scenes. And as Aang begins to kind of pick up more of the different elements and starts mastering that, he's gonna have his own twist to it in how he goes about things with trying to not hurt people, because it's just what he basically a monk. I mean, when you think about it. So like he's gonna have his own twist of things, but you'll see in like the show as you watch the animation, like it's not super violent because it is a kid's show, but there's enough fighting to kind of get you the idea of like where the actual like, live action will go at some point. I will say though, my favorite episode, and this was actually different from the anime as well. I don't even think they show some of these powers until Legend of Korra, Avatar Legend of Korra. And by the way, they're actually going to be releasing a third Avatar series in 2025, I think. That's supposed to take 100 years after Korra, who was the avatar after Aang. So it's like 100 years, 100 years, 100 years type deal.
Yeah.
But when he takes the power of, I forget the name of her. I think it's Kyoshi is her name, the one that has the face paint.
Yeah.
And that one. Yeah. And she like
wind one
goes into his body as the avatar, and then she comes out and just like wrecks the place, and then like flame hands, and then just like shoots away and slams into the ground. Like that to me was actually really cool. And I don't remember that being like any part of that anime or animation, however we want to go about it, in the first season. Don't think that's in there, but that was badass. Like I really wish that would have been in the anime.
Was the bad guy, what the hell's his name? The kid with the screwed up eye.
Zuko?
Yeah, was his sister in the original anime? Because I don't recall her.
Yeah, his sister's in the original animation. Yeah, she's pretty cool. She's a badass over time.
She's a shitty sister, though.
Yeah. So overall, I mean, I looked at this as, for me, it was probably like a 7 to 8 out of 10 for me. Now, like, obviously, there's a lot of things that are, not a lot, but there's some pretty key things that are different, but it's engaging enough to me as a live action show that if I came into this kind of in the similar set that you did, if I came into this not knowing much about the animation, I would have been happy watching this.
Yeah, I think that's fair. 7 out of 10. No, that last episode really pushed me over the top. I'm a fan now, and I'll watch the next one when it comes up. When is there going to be in season 2?
They haven't announced yet because Netflix is usually like a few weeks after the release of some of these shows. They kind of see what viewership is like and kind of determine from that. But I mean, Avatar is such a huge property. And they did it well enough that the Metacritic reviews are actually pretty decent too. Like if they don't go through with this, I'd be shocked.
That's cool. Yeah. I'll tune in for sure. It looked pretty good.
Yeah, you'll have to let us know about the animation as you kind of dive into that too. I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are over time.
Yeah, I started I finished the live action around midnight last night and then fell asleep during the animation, so I got to start that one over again.
Yeah. Sounds about right. That's how I am too. All right, let's dive into some discussion topics here or articles. So the first one here is Nintendo is suing the makers of the open source Switch emulator Yuzu. This is Nicole Carpenter at Polygon that wrote this one. So to kind of kick it off here, Nintendo has blamed Yuzu for pirated copies of Tears of the Kingdom and people being able to play it early. They accounted, I think it's like 20% of all illegal downloads are pointed towards Yuzu. So for people's background, Yuzu is an emulation program, right? And so while Yuzu does not have emulation on it, or emulators, right? They don't actually do that. People are utilizing that particular software for emulation, right? So they're taking illegal copies of games, they're plugging it on this program. Nintendo's argument is that there are certain components within their developments or within their on the technical back end that allow for emulation, and it requires to steal some Nintendo code essentially to be able to break those games and allow you to play them on PC and other things. So that's kind of what they're suing off of. I think in general, when we kind of look at the history of Nintendo lawsuits, when it pertains to this, I don't recall any instances in the past where they've been able to take down like an emulation software company. But in my view, they actually do have kind of an argument here, right? Like Yuzu's got a Patreon. They're getting, it says around $30,000 per month. And they've actually earned at least $50,000 in paid downloads of Yuzu. So you're actually purchasing something that could do illegal activity. So I think that's one of the big things there. And then the fact that they can point to the fact that, Yuzu has things that allow them to kind of break those games and be able to do illegal activity. I think there is somewhat of an argument there. Right.
I was going to ask, have they ever? This is the first time they've gone up after an emulator.
I don't think so. I think they've gone after. I want to say, didn't Dolphin Emulator have some issues with Nintendo a long time ago as well?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
So, I mean, here's the thing: Nintendo chases anybody, right? So, like we know that hacker Gary Bowser, he's referenced here as being arrested and charged for selling Switch hacks. So I don't remember exactly, like if I click the article, it'll tell me, but he was recently released from prison, but like he owes Nintendo $10 million. And, he's paid back $175 cash from his prison earnings as well, from prison library and kitchen. Yeah. So, he's making a dent. But I mean, that kind of, that shows what Nintendo will do, right, for anything. So they will cease and desist. They will sue. They will do anything they can to protect their properties. Right, like we've seen that.
I was saying, like I said earlier, I'm surprised Nintendo didn't push the issue and have him change his last name as well.
Hey, you know what? It's incoming. Like, he hasn't gotten the cease and desist yet, but he will. Yeah, you can't have the same name as Bowser. It just don't work like that. That was the most ironic thing, by the way.
It's funny how that worked out.
Oh yeah, yeah, and he's a bad guy too, right? So like that definitely works out. I mean, for Nintendo, this is their Bowser. So, yes, I mean, I guess when we kind of think about emulation as a whole here, I mean, what are your thoughts on this particular lawsuit? I mean, I do think that there's a gray area here, unlike other emulation software.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised they haven't gone after more emulation companies before. I mean, it makes sense.
They go after the ones that are hosting it, right? Like, that's usually where they go. Like, if you're a website and you got a crap ton of emulators, they'll shut you down. Like, that's like pretty much table stakes for Nintendo at this point. Yeah, you got emulators on your website's coming down, right? This to me feels very different.
You mean if you have ROMs on your website?
Yeah, ROMs. Sorry, not emulators, but ROMs.
They shut down. Was it Love ROMs? I believe it was a local company.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was a husband and wife team. They shut them down back in 2018. But they were just straight up doing ROMs. But usually when you go to like any of these ROM sites, it'll direct you to go over here to get the emulator, go over there to get the emulator. So you can't have one without the other. So going after the emulation sites makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's Nintendo's argument here is, it's kind of coinciding, right? Yeah, we're shutting down all these ROM sites, but there's still emulators that once they're downloaded, you can just kind of go fish for them and just continue playing games once they're downloaded, right? Okay. So you shut down the emulators, you kind of shut down the whole piracy component here. That said, I mean, there's so many emulators out there at this point that are just loaded onto people's computers. Like, if you want to emulate, you're going to emulate.
It's sort of Nintendo's sort of to blame because they're always the first ones to get cracked, if you know what I mean. They need to protect their stuff more on their end, on the beginning end.
Well, and that's also an argument I've read in some other articles here, and that you don't see these issues aren't as prevalent with like Sony and Microsoft. Main reason being is that they're using more up-to-date hardware. So what you have with Nintendo is they're releasing things that are like a generation, 2 generations behind in terms of hardware to keep their costs low. But by doing that, now you open yourselves up to hacking and other types of things because of the older hardware in their systems. And I would imagine older firmware and other things that are built in there too. Whereas like Sony, the biggest thing we had was like emulation of PS1 and PS2 back in the day due to chips being soldered into boards, or you had like memory cards that had certain software, things of that nature. But half the time it wasn't even for hacked games, just so we could play Japanese games. So that's no longer an issue anyways, because they have, it's open source for, God, what is it called? It's not region locked anymore for games. So there's no issues on that. So like nobody really finds the need of like, hey, let me crack my PlayStation 5 so I can play a Japanese game that I really want to play. Like, at this point, just buy a Japanese game. Nintendo is just so far back in their hardware that it just gets cracked, dude. And then now then it's like, oh, well, the community is stealing all of these things. Okay, cool. Like, sucks for you, but there's other things that you do as well that are kind of detrimental to the industry, such as, I don't know, removing every single 3DS game from the internet, things that will never be released again for the sake of no longer having it hosted. So now we're talking about, at this point, it's more preservation of games. And that's where I think a lot of people's argument comes through for emulation, is trying to preserve some of these games so I can have access to it at a later point because of where things are going digitally and what Nintendo does with their games. And some of these games, like when you think about Nintendo NES and SNES and N64 and all these other things that people are, emulating. I get the Switch is totally different. It's new property, losing tons of money, but like the older stuff that they chase on, you weren't going to release it anyways. And if you were, you're going to put it as part of like, I don't know, 3 of 100 maybe games that you're putting from Sega and N64, GBA, everything else, throwing it onto your $20 a year service. Like, how much are you really losing when somebody says, I'm going to emulate a copy of Earthbound?
Yeah, I love that word, preservation. It's
Ryan has his own preservation devices.
It's a polite society's way of saying piracy. It might be a little bit of victim blaming here, but Yeah, it's all your fault, Nintendo.
It is. It is.
It's
Dude,
welcome to the future.
People have come out and said, like, if Nintendo if Nintendo gave me all of these games, just say the entire Super Nintendo library, and just put it onto their catalog of online, people have openly said, like, I would buy it. Like, I would pay to be able to play all of those old games in a legal method. But the fact that Nintendo doesn't release them all is kind of the issue people have.
Why not? I mean, is it server issue pricing?
I would assume maybe it's licensing issues.
Yeah, well, I guess for some.
I mean, that could be for some, but I don't see why. Like,
most of their stuff's first party. Well, a lot of their stuff's first party. Well, the stuff people want to play is first party.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of good third-party stuff out there, but yeah, I think that's probably the licensing issue there. But if you release all your first-party stuff, at least that's not too big a deal. But yeah, as it pertains to like the newer stuff, like Tears of the Kingdom, I could see why they're pissed, right? Like, X amount of people are downloading this game illegally, but you also kind of have to look at it from this other lens. Somebody that's pirating the game was probably not going to buy the game anyways. Like, so. Well, yeah. And that's the reality of it. Like, most people that are pirating these games were not going to purchase the game anyways. And Yuzu, by the way that Yuzu works, from my understanding, is it allows you to dump, like, if you purchase a game, you could dump the code into Yuzu to be able to play it on like PCs. So like, you're not necessarily, some of these people using it are because, I want to play it on my Steam Deck. Like, that's why I don't want to play it on there. I don't want to play it on the Switch. I want to play it on PC. Like, that's why they're doing it, but they're buying actual copies. And then you have some that are buying it or taking it illegally and then playing it. So, but those people, like I said, that are taking it illegally, we're not going to buy it anyways. So you're not missing out on any revenue there.
Backing up your stuff is still 100% legal. If you buy it, you can dump it on. There you go. That's that. There, right there. We just won the lawsuit for user right there. No.
Well, there's a lot more to it. But all right. Let's go into our next topic here. So, an upset Insomniac says PlayStation layoffs are unprecedented. And this is Paul Tassi of Forbes that wrote this one. So here on the Game Deflators Podcast, we like to cite legit publications like Forbes. So Insomniac's quote is, like several other teams across SIE and PlayStation Studios, Insomniac Games was impacted by yesterday's layoffs. There are no sufficient words to express our feelings about it. This is a solemn and unprecedented moment for our studio. We are focusing our energy on helping everyone affected through this challenging time. For those who are hiring, there are great people seeking new roles who made important contributions to Insomniac's history. We're extremely grateful for them, and they will be missed. That is a big screw you, Sony. That's what that was.
I read the tweet. And it wasn't as harsh as the article made it out to me. I mean, they Insomniac tiptoed. They wanted to get their message across, but they didn't want to straight slap Sony in the face, which they need to.
To me, I mean, it depends on how you view it, right? Yeah. Like, the article says it in such a way that makes it really harsh. Your impression wasn't that. My impression, just kind of reading between the lines here, is that
F you in between every other line.
Yeah, like for those who are hiring, these are great people seeking roles who made important contributions to Insomniac's history. Insomniac's pretty much saying, like, look, if we were our own studio still, these people would still be here. Yeah. And if you look at from a revenue perspective, so Spider-Man 2, right? And this is a major piece of this article. And this is what's kind of upsetting about this. Normally, when you're doing layoffs, you would typically target areas of your company that are not producing the necessary revenue, or you're making costs or cost adjustments, right? Or cutting costs based on underperformance typically. They didn't underperform. So they said Spider-Man 2 costs $300 million to make, triple the budget of the first game. However, they needed 7.2 million copies to break even, and it hit 10 million a few months later. So when you look at the justification there for doing layoffs for Insomniac in particular, why? They were successful. Their team was able to develop or put in 2.8 million more copies on a game and generate revenue for the company.
Yeah. It doesn't. They're firing everybody over there.
Well, yeah, look, just the whole industry is.
Yeah. I think EA they fired over 600 people.
Well, and like Embracer Group is liquidating some of their studios now too. I think Gearbox just got sold, or they're in the process of getting sold, and one of their other companies got sold as well. One of the other studios. So like it's across the industry, and I don't know. Is this like COVID layoffs still?
Yeah,
Like the mass hiring from tech, and I mean we're seeing it in general, but it's not as bad this year as it was like last year. So it's still kind of in that phase of we're still trying to lessen the amount of staff we have. But this situation to me is screwy. Like they generated revenue for the company. They did something positive for the company, generating however many millions of dollars.
Yeah, they're just trimming the fat. I mean, it's like I said, it's the video game industry during COVID was salad days. They're just raking it in. But things are leveling out. Things are calming down. The numbers aren't there anymore, so they gotta make cuts somewhere. They're just not making the best decisions. I mean, it's like who do you cut?
Yeah.
It's just a matter. It's just victims of the whole thing.
Yeah. So they're obviously not too happy, but I mean, there's nothing they can really do. They're part of Sony now, and it might end up like a rare situation with Microsoft, right? People start leaving, making their own thing. Indie games come out. So, in the grand scheme of things, these layoffs suck initially, but I think for gamers, these layoffs are actually kind of beneficial sometimes, in that these developers usually will create their own thing. I mean, that's how we got games like Ukulele, right? I enjoyed Ukulele. You don't get that unless members of a Rare team leave Microsoft, do their own thing, right? So could we see situations where like former Insomniac devs go out and make a new IP that goes gangbusters, right?
We'll see. Well, hopefully their talent isn't lost. Hopefully they do get picked up, and their loss is someone else's gain.
Yep, exactly. And then with those layoffs also came the closing of their London studio, which primarily focuses on VR games, and that's what we're going to talk about here next. Let's see. Since a year after its release, Sony seems to have abandoned the PlayStation VR 2. This is Taylor Lyles at IGN talking about this one. And, I haven't jumped in on the PSVR 2 because of a price point.
Their big mistake was no backwards compatibility right there.
Yeah,
huge,
100%.
Huge mistake.
Huge mistake. I mean, I collected. So when I started buying the VR games, I started buying VR with the thought process of, hey, these might be backwards compatible with the new VR. It would make sense to make them backwards compatible with the new VR, but they weren't. So if I can hook up my PSVR 1 to a PlayStation 5 and play the console in that manner, why would I not be able to do it on the PSVR 2? Like, why not adapt the controls to make sure that it works for the older games?
You think it'd be seamless?
But, yeah, you would think so. And I mean, the fact that PS4 can play on PS5 like normal games, I'm not going to pretend to get into all the technical know-how and say, it's 100% possible. There's got to be reasoning for it. But that thought didn't cross their mind of like, how can we make this work?
Yeah, it's weird. Most VR games are also digital. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But the article also goes on to say that they're headed to PC. A lot of hopefully a lot of it's headed to PC.
Yeah, they are going to be jumping into PC, which means they're probably going to get some greater pickup. But the overall percentage of market, I think it's Meta is sitting at 75% of market share for VR headsets, and PlayStation VR 2 is sitting at 5%. They've sold maybe just over 1 million copies since it came out. It was hard to get during its first part of the release. They only allowed sales on like their PlayStation blog or whatever the hell it was. So you had that situation. Price point to me, like the VR 1 was very competitively priced. Like it was, for what it was, you were getting a pretty good VR setup. You had PlayStation games that you're playing. Obviously games that were going out on Meta and everything else for VR. But it was affordable. And you drop the VR 2 and it's what, $500 for the VR 2?
Just saying, same as a freaking PS5.
Yeah. At that point, it's like, what the heck? I think Ryan actually won our bet from several years ago. I think he said it's going to be $1,000 for the two of them. And so I think long term, he won our bet there. But yeah, I mean, it's pricey as hell to pick up for VR. There's better options out there, or very, similar options with like Meta. The amount of games on there, there's very little exclusives that are coming from Sony for VR2. So that right there, I mean, exclusives is a big factor. There's not enough exclusive games coming into the VR2 to make it worthwhile when you can buy a Meta for a much cheaper price, not have all of the components and things hooked up to your PC, and you're going to get a very similar experience at a much lower rate of cost.
Is the I don't see why they can't just adapt any first person view game to any VR. I mean, it just should just be, again, seamless.
Yeah, and to the point you made earlier, right, the PS4, like if you can play it on Meta and it's compatible with Meta and it's compatible with PSVR 2, what's the issue with bringing some of those PS4 VR games that are also on Meta and you can play them on there? What's the issue making it backwards compatible? So. It really doesn't make sense. So I don't know, maybe somebody could sound off in the comments and give us a better idea as to like why it does make sense for Sony.
Yeah, so Sony's screwing up, Nintendo's screwing up. We need to be put in charge of these companies.
There we go. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna change my name to Bowser first. I'm gonna do that. Or Bandicoot. I think Bandicoot for Sony, and then that'll piss off Xbox. And I guess one last piece here is the marketing component. So Sony itself has not done like a crazy marketing push for these VR headsets. Like they didn't do it for the first iteration. They're not doing it for this one. It's all kind of tied together, right? You got bad marketing, just like the Vita.
Where have we seen this before?
A low amount of games, just like the Vita. Adoption is not there yet, just like the Vita. So I think it's not the PSVR 2. I think it's the PS Vita now reality too, something like that. Yeah,
it's history repeating itself.
That's all it is. And you'd think that these companies would learn from their mistakes as to what worked and what didn't, but here we are. Well, let's go into other companies not learning from their mistakes. So Foamstars, this was developed by Square Enix. It was published by Square Enix. I always think Squaresoft still, by the way. Those are the good days, Squaresoft and Enix separately. But yeah, it was released. Well, actually, it's not released yet technically as of this episode. Releases March 5th, 2024. It is a shooter. Reception right now is a 6 out of 10 on this like early access that you can get via PlayStation Plus. Overall synopsis here is use foam to build the terrain, create slippery surfaces to surf around an arena at high speed. In my experience, was slow speed. Help defend from enemy attacks or create vantage points to take out enemies, and most importantly, to foam up the opposition. I would say that this game in general just foamed out for me. So I played through the tutorial. I played through some matches, got dropped in all of my matches. And, when in my matches, what pissed me off so much is I know my network connection was good because I was playing other stuff, earlier in the week, and I was online all day for my work, no connection drops whatsoever. And yet, as I jump into Foamstars midway through each match, I had a network disconnection. And when we, find a new match, got paired with the same people in that match. So I don't know if that's an instance of not a whole lot of people playing, and that's why I got paired up, or just something stupid on their end that's allowing somebody who has a poor connection to jump back in the same damn match, and then it clicks me out again. So it's like, I know it's not me on that end. Like I was literally checking my connection. I'm like, the speeds are good. It's not me. There's no issues with my ping, nothing. Like I'm solid. So somebody was dropping. It kept disconnecting us from the game, or maybe server issue. I don't know. But that was my experience in trying to play, multiplayer online. In the multiplayer bits that I played, it's chaotic. There's white foam everywhere. It's hard to truly see like what the hell's going on. To me, that just wasn't fun. It was slow pace, like even surfing on the foam. No, nothing whatsoever here. So the idea of this game is you're pretty much like Splatoon, but you're shooting foam and you're trying to foam up different enemies on the other side by building it around them until they turn into a foam snowman, basically, and start rolling around, and then use your surfboard to kick them, to eliminate them. There's a small drop off in time of where you wait to get back in the match, and then you go back to foaming them. It was 4v4 is what I was playing with online. and you have multiple characters, each with like their own different abilities that they can do. I was playing with a tutorial character because I felt that she was the easiest to kind of handle with the automatic foam gun and her abilities that she had. But overall, like in that period of time, like the tutorial to me felt very slow. It didn't feel good while playing, right? Like I didn't like how it controlled. I didn't like the angle. Like it was weird. I had like the sensor say, here's where your foam is going to land, but my foam never landed. It was always like 50 feet forward from where I was actually trying to aim towards in all instances. Controls just felt very clunky to me for a game like this. The music was okay. I didn't like the fact that I couldn't skip over text, like actual like story coming through. I just was like, okay, cool. Like I understand how to jump. I played enough video games. I understand that I will run with my left joystick. There's no need for me to sit here and like just go through like this is how you run and we're just going to continue telling the story and you can't hit X to get past this in a tutorial. Tutorial took forever. It was a bitch. And then single player mode, in playing that, it's just not big. I mean, the single player mode mission I had was sitting in a basically a platform as enemies came floating in, and I had to take out some enemies. And like I get that like later on maybe there's more single player missions that are fun, maybe. But in the 30-40 minutes I played the other night, I did not have any fun.
30-40 minutes, man. You really put some time into this game.
Hey, a demo quality time frame, right? If it's going to take me 30-40 minutes to play a demo, 30-40 minutes of gameplay should get me a good feel for like if I can't get engaged in the first 30 to 40 minutes on a game that's supposed to be like action packed, right? And like fast paced, that's an issue. And so that's kind of where I felt it was.
Before I get into the meat and potatoes of this game, just so you know, this is the first time I've played a rated E game since probably like 2012.
I think it was T, isn't it?
What? Oh, it was T?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh man.
Well, I'll look that up. But okay,
I think it was. Are you sure? Because it seems like an E game all the way to me. I have mature taste in video games, so
Will plays AO rated games whenever he can. Where is it? No, if I type in rate, let's do ESRB rating. T for teen.
Really?
Yes.
Oh wow.
I mean, it's got foam guns, right?
I mean, it's a first person shooter of some sort, sort of.
Well, third person.
Third person, yes. Well, third person, first person. You know what I mean? It's a shooter.
It's T for violence.
There's no. I don't know. I mean,
you do use a surfboard to kick people in the face after you got them all covered in foam.
It's weird. So it's set up like some sort of sports league. Yeah. In Bath, Vegas, right? And it's all bright neon lights and fireworks and pizzazz and jazz hands. The whole setting, the whole send up was I didn't like it. I tried. It's just ick to me. You know, I couldn't. If TikTok dances were a video game, this is it. You know, this game had every old man cell in my body just screaming. It's the kind of game that has microtransactions where you can purchase a man purse. I was not here for it.
Just wait until you can purchase a floss dance for celebrations.
I guarantee it's in there. But you know, but then again, you and I don't think we're the target demographic for this thing.
No, I mean we're not the target demographic, but like it's got to be a good game, right? Like, so I think when you say target demographic, the Bath Vegas, all of lights and everything else to come in, like the characters and how they talk, which by the way, so in the single player mode, you meet this character. She's like, I'm such a huge fan. And your main character's like, oh yeah, like I can't believe I got to meet my biggest fan. And it goes into like this text-based story with like the smiles and the art changes based on like the little character picture that's in there. And it was just like, it did feel like I was playing one of those like narrative story based games where you just kind of are listening to the back and forth. And I'm like, just skip, but it won't let me skip. So I think for you and I, when it comes to the Bath Vegas, the glitz and glamour, the little story bits and all of that, we're not the target demographic. When it comes to the actual gameplay, the foam shooting, the sliding in the people, the actual like meat and potatoes of the game itself, we could fit that demographic because it is like that competitive atmosphere. That didn't click for me, was my biggest issue. It's like that to me didn't work.
There's some element of, I mean, have you played Splatoon?
Yeah.
How much of a copy is this from Splatoon? Is it like,
I mean, so I think it's pretty damn close. I mean, like I can see where people are like, I mean, with the whole thing of like shooting ink or whatever and or paint or whatever the hell it is. Like I played enough to get the premise, obviously.
Did you have fun
with Splatoon? Yeah, I actually did have quite a bit of fun with it. I did enjoy Splatoon and what we had played. But this to me, it feels like a cheap knockoff of Splatoon. And not a very good one. I mean, it's Nintendo did split. I mean, there's a reason there's a Splatoon 3, right? They've done enough, like they've sold enough. It's been decent enough to get them to that point. Foamstars feels like they're trying to capitalize on that with giving it like a Dreamcast vibe. Like it literally felt like I was playing an old school Dreamcast game.
The game, you're playing SSX. You know, at the beginning, the snowboard game, at the beginning of the game, it's just
it's like explosions and everything. Yeah. We reviewed that on here too, actually.
That the whole game is that. Just to be.
Well, yeah, no, I actually liked SSX, but I like snowboarding games in general. So that to me was kind of fun.
No, I'm just talking about the fireworks.
Yeah, the fireworks. In your
face.
It's very. It felt, like I said, it felt like a Dreamcast game. Like it felt like I was playing Space. What is it? Space Channel 5. Yeah. It felt like I was playing some Space Channel with like the music and the way the characters' bodies are built up and everything. It literally felt like Space Channel with fireworks and like poor gameplay.
I'm sure some kids out there. There's
going to be kids out there to like it.
Yeah, but I'm not one of them.
Yeah. Well, you're not a kid.
So. No, well, yeah.
Maybe a heart, but not in this instance.
The man child, we can go with that.
Yeah,
but I'm not flamboyant enough for this game, I guess.
Enough, which means you are.
I got a little flair in me, but not enough to play Foamstars. But yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at aggregates, I mean, a 6 out of 10 average is. I mean, somebody had to rate it a 10. Somebody had to rate it like a 4, right? 4 to 3.5, roughly. So. That's how you get aggregates. All right, so let's look at the brass tacks here. There is no complete box copy or anything of that nature. It's only available through Sony right now on the PlayStation. You can pick it up for free as of today, I believe, and then the 5th it goes on sale for $30. There will be season passes that are released on an annual basis for $5.99, to my understanding. I wouldn't even continue playing this for free. Like, it's just not good. It's just not worth it. $30, in my opinion, is way overvalued for a game like this. And then to say we're going to have $5.99 prices for season passes and get cosmetics and everything else, that's bullshit. When you think about like Apex Legends, I always put it back to Apex Legends for games like this. Apex, you can jump in, you can get cosmetics, you can get free shit, you can build it up, you can have a good time, you can unlock your characters with in-game currency, and go about your day and have a blast. Same thing with Magic the Gathering Arena. You go in for free. You can build up your currency. You can buy stuff. If you want to get ahead faster, okay, cool. There's microtransactions, right? From what I'm reading on other reviews here, this thing is like microtransaction hell. It's like predatory microtransactions for this game. So $30 to then get microtransactions to then pay for season passes.
So is it going to be free to play version and a paid version? So or after?
No, like it's a paid base version from what I was reading. So it's free right now on the release for PlayStation Plus, likely to get people on there so they can get future purchases via microtransactions. Like, hey, you can get it free for now. Let's get 1 million people, 2 million people to get this for free, download on their console, and then let's start making money via microtransactions. I get the methodology behind it, but yeah, it sounds like it's gonna be $30 when it's released.
Yeah, I'll pass.
Yeah, same here. All right, so I think we're both in agreement here, but this game is inflated.
Inflated.
Cool. All right. Well, that concludes our episode, Will.
Hey, I had a question for you. How did Ryan take the news that I'm permanently replacing him?
I don't know. I haven't told him anything.
You haven't broken it to him? Oh.
No, I haven't.
It'd be weird if you found out listening.
Just so people know, for clarification, Will's not replacing Ryan.
Damn, why you gotta ruin
it? Ryan will be back. I don't know. I might lose subscribers.
Oh, come on.
They're going to listen to this and be like, man, this Will guy sucks. And we're going to go towards the end and then like, oh, man, he's permanent. All right. There goes my 2 subscribers. All right. Well, with that, this has been episode 276 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John. I've been joined by Will of the PlayStation Ain't Dead Podcast, right?
Yes, correct.
Right? I got it right? Okay, cool. Find him on social media everywhere else. And, of course, go visit the PlayStation Ain't Dead pages. PlayStation 2 Ain't Dead or PS2 Ain't Dead, PS3, PS4, etc. It's not dead. It's alive.
No, we even got PS5 Ain't Dead. That one upsets people. It's just the title alone makes people mad.
Just do the PlayStation Ain't Dead or PlayStation 6 or PS6 Ain't Dead.
Oh, well, yeah. As soon as it drops, it ain't dead.
No. Do it before.
We got a lot. It's weird. Every like once a month, somebody makes up an different Ain't Dead group trying to capitalize, and just message them and just insult them until they take it down. But that's all. It's really the only recourse I have.
Send an army of ponies their way. That's how it works. All right. Well, dude, it was great having you on. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Always fun to talk.
Yeah,
and we'll have you on in the future.
Yeah.
Maybe. We'll see.
3 years later. I'm kidding. Thanks for having me.
Shit on me about it. You're on. I'm just going to delete all of this episode where you're involved and just have myself talking to like a ghost. It'll be great.
Yeah.